On February 10, 2014, Vietnam officially welcomed McDonald's first fast food restaurant into the country under the cooperation between McDonald's itself and Henry Nguyen, or Nguyễn Bảo Hoàng, the son-in-law of the Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng, as its local franchisee.
Usually when I travel, I love stopping by McDonald's and getting a double cheeseburger or Big Mac, but now I can just roll out of bed here in Saigon and go get one.
On the opening day, under the hot Sunday sun, yet McDonald's was like the center of the town, where music blasted, with customers waiting in lines for hours to get the taste of the American fast food giant's offerings. According to the Vietnamese media, located in District 1 of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam's commercial center, the McDonald's branch has 24 hours drive-thru service and will feature the usual menu classics, plus some items to cater the locals' taste. Despite the Vietnamese economy's recent slowdown, foreign brands are popular among the youthful populations whose parents had few of the food and lifestyle options now available in the country, proven by the fact Starbucks, Subway, Burger King, and KFC have all presence here. The opening of McDonald's 10,000th restaurant located in Vietnam, specifically Ho Chi Minh City, has become the hot topic over the course of few days for both Vietnamese local newspaper and other newspaper titles like the NY Times, BBC, CNN, under the impression of capitalism entering the socialist market. And this shall be the topic for the TOK presentation, under the knowledge questions of: to what extent does imperialism affect local ideology? So now, what is imperialism? According to Oxford Dictionary, imperialism is the policy of extending the rule or authority of an empire or nations over foreign countries, or of acquiring and holding countries and dependencies. But nowadays, we define it as something rather same concept with different but similar purpose. In terms of economic definition, it is a situation in which one country has lots of economic power or influences over the other. And this is exactly what is happening in Vietnam right now, where, briefly summarized, the country is accepting many foreign brands from food to fashion to the Vietnamese market in competition with many other domestic companies. McDonald's is known as the world's largest chain of hamburger fast food restaurant, serving around 68 million customers daily in 119 countries. The golden age of McDonald's surprisingly not now in the domestic where it is originate, as 65% of its income revenue comes from the overseas and foreign corporations. There are negative and positive towards McDonald's entering Vietnam regarding the sad perspective of capitalism attacking the socialist economy. Therefore, from the way we perceive the situation, it is claimed in answer to the knowledge question that imperialism, although have a significant effect on local ideologies, however, it's still subjective to the local ideology's influence. Per se, the claim just made indeed lies towards the middle of the spectrum between the two extremes, which also are the counterclaims regarding the knowledge questions, with the left end claims that imperialism affects local ideologies, while the right end claims that imperialism is subjective to local ideologies. So, instead of talking about the claim first, since it lies in the middle of the spectrum, we will talk about the two extremes first, starting with imperialism affects local ideologies. Counterclaim 1. Imperialism affects locals' ideologies. McDonald's has only been established in Vietnam since last month, February 10th, Therefore, it is hard to tell the major capitalism effect upon Vietnamese ideology regarding economy and culture. But regarding the generalized of the counterclaim that imperialism affect local ideology, we could use the situation in China as the closest example in relation to Vietnamese McDonald's, since both countries share the closest government and cultural system. A decade ago, much like the current Vietnam right now, China had been the #1 market for McDonald's to grow. McDonald's, which is a representation of Western imperialism on China, has soon taken over Chinese fast food market. Much like other developing countries, China was putting other developed countries, which are mostly the Western countries, as its model for development. In this process, it is also subjected to the gradual, almost unnoticed absorption of Western ideology. This is the case when a less dominant ideology has to adapt itself to a more dominant ideology, the concept of imperialism. Projecting Chinese case into the present day, McDonald's arrival to Vietnam can be interpreted that history is repeating itself. Relate to history as an area of knowing. The case of China can be viewed as a foreshadowing to Vietnam's future. From China case alone, it could be shown that such richness in culture like traditional Chinese food is being overshadowed by unhealthy fast food chains, and businesses regarding traditional cuisines are being overpowered by the foreign estates. Regarding the pace rates, from the sense of perception as a way of knowing, it is predictable of the massive spreads of McDonald's over Vietnam in the near future, taking into account the convenience of Vietnam's current openness to foreign business. Not only affecting the lifestyles of people, particular brands like McDonald's also have a significant impact on local ideology and local economic standpoints. McDonald's, which doesn't provide specific earning numbers to China, has nearly 2,000 units in the country. This is not hard to happen in Vietnam, since such other foreign brands like Starbucks already able to open 3 stores in the city with 1 year working, and rival brand with McDonald's like Burger King has already opened 24 stores around Ho Chi Minh City over 2 years since the establishment in Vietnam. Even though McDonald's is one of the most competitive fast food brands in China, it was able to minimize the expense of income tax with annual report of low profit due to various reasons, from chicken flu to avian influenza dampen restaurant traffic. The country's governments do not get much tax revenue from the giant fast food chains, even if its response income reaches almost million USD every year. Imperialism of capitalism had a huge impact on the local socialist ideology here, due to the fact that in socialist ideology, business is to be set under strict government controls and subjected to heavy income tax. The next counterclaims is the other endpoint of our spectrum, which state imperialism is subjective to locals' ideologies. Counterclaim 2. Imperialism is subjective to locals' ideologies. As viewed by the other mass populations, McDonald's itself is subjective to the government's influence. Recall the reason for why McDonald's did not enter Vietnam. It was because of the long-standing dispute between McDonald's need to use the import beef and Vietnam's need for business within the countries to support the local goods. This dispute, with both sides refusing to compromise, eventually led to McDonald's decision not to enter Vietnamese market. This past decision here shows how local ideology rejects the influence of another ideology. Shifting back to the current situation, McDonald's arrival to Vietnam could be seen as yielding of local ideology to the capitalist ideology, to McDonald's imperialism on the fast food market. Yet, it should be taken into account the one who brought McDonald's to Vietnam. It was not easy to imagine the mere resistance of Vietnam's political point of view on the entering of the leading company in the capitalist world. As a matter of fact, McDonald was brought in by Nguyễn Bảo Hoàng, who is the son-in-law of the current Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng. With other being unable to bring McDonald to Vietnam, but Nguyễn Bảo Hoàng, it seems to the public that there is an indisputable link between McDonald's arrival and its relationship with the government. Still, it should also be acknowledged that this way of knowing is based on intuition only, since there is no clear evidence showing the link. Further clarifying this, McDonald could not have come to Vietnam without the government's acceptance. Relating back to the view that McDonald's is subjective to Vietnam's influences, its dependence on the government is one of the evidence. It is worth noticing the position of McDonald's in the world of capitalism. In the world of capitalism, McDonald's operates with freedom, subjective to the tax of 31.3% in US, 15% in Canada, 12% in India, and 16% in Hong Kong. Yet, in Vietnam, McDonald's is subjective to the tax rate of astonishingly high 41%. In capitalist countries, businesses are to be operated under little or no government interference. The profit is mainly to be owned by the companies. However, in this case, over 40% of the income tax show how significant the effect on local ideologies has on foreign and more dominant ideologies. Capitalist imperialism have no effect on the socialist policy, where businesses are to be controlled heavily by the government of Vietnam. This way of acquiring knowledge is based fundamentally on reasons, since the deductions are derived from reliable statistics. Now, we will divert your attentions back to the claim stated at first, which again lies in between the two extreme ends of the spectrum, that imperialism, although have a significant effect on local ideologies, however, it's still subjective to local ideologies' influence. We are fully aware that this claim is pretty much half about imperialism affect local ideology, but while also half about how it under the influence of the imperialism. This is pretty much what Vietnam is under right now. Vietnamese government practice socialism, but nowadays, as the country is moving towards further development, it is inevitable not to have foreign investments and having to open up the cultures to various foreign practice. It is indeed not entirely bad. It contributes to the development of the country, but everything comes with a price. Like said before, McDonald's had only come to Vietnam since last month. Therefore, the prediction can only manage from history as the area of knowing and perception as the way of knowing. Using the situation of Chinese McDonald's, how it has become the number one food brand of China, defeating all the domestic food stores, having to pay very little tax money upon the $1 million incomes gone into the business in China. Indeed, China government and Chinese citizens didn't get much economic benefits from the China Act, and most likely this shall soon happen to Vietnam. not only because the two countries are neighbor, but because McDonald's knows exactly what to target to satisfy Vietnamese, since Chinese and Vietnamese share lots of common in cultures. But then again, taken into account many foreign brands had entered Vietnam years ago, such as KFC, Domino's Pizza, Baskin Robbins, Dunkin' Donuts, etc. The fault of imperialism is not solely on McDonald's, as Starbucks was also one of the causes towards the downturn of Vietnamese coffee brands. Other foreign companies also have influence on the gradual absorptions of Westerners' lifestyle. In fact, McDonald's itself is also being tied down and changed to adapt to the purely different style of government of Vietnamese people. Summing up the evidence presented, based on history as a way of knowing, and with intuition and reason from area of knowledge. First of all, it is undeniable how McDonald's and other foreign food brands could easily overpower the fast food industry of Vietnam from learned experiences of other countries such as China, and therefore, with the idealistic fancies of living in the Western life, Vietnamese traditional culture and government system could easily slide down the slope of downfall, and therefore that is how imperialism affects local ideologies. For how imperialism is subjective to local ideologies, McDonald's have to rely on the government's favor to enter Vietnam. This shows how imperialism of capitalist countries fail due to the fact that if the government is to be influenced by capitalist ideology, McDonald's had little troubles entering the markets of Vietnam, and that it would not have been to rely on the favor of the government. If local ideologies were to be influenced by capitalist imperialism, McDonald's would have been subjected to lower tax, and as it is a capitalist economy, therefore, in this case, what Vietnam is facing is indeed the mid of the spectrum, as we also have an idiom that teaches everything and anything happens like a double-edged sword. There will always be pros and cons that lie somewhere among the spectrum.